Welcome to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. Every other week, we bring you Catholic teachings and stories of faith from people throughout the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. This is the Gaudium et Spes podcast.
Well, greetings, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Gaudium et Spes podcast. You will notice, if you're watching especially, that I am all by myself. Unfortunately, my compatriot Suzanne had gotten bit by the Omicron variant bug that's going around so often. So she's not with us today. She'll be back next time. Give her a prayer or two, and her husband as well, who's dealing with it. But if you missed our last episode, we want to encourage you to check out that special taping we did with Pri and Father Dustin Fedden over in the Joseph House in Tallahassee. What a remarkable experience was to talk with him, hear about life and what it's like to be in the prison system, to get out, to receive this wonderful experience through the Joseph House and get back on his feet. So we wish Pri all the best, all the work that Joseph House is doing, and please do check back on that episode. We are concluding Bishop's two-part series today on the life of a bishop, and today is a really, really interesting, cool look of what his day-to-day experience is like. So if you ever wanted to know from 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night what a bishop does, especially in our own diocese, Bishop Bill pretty much lets you know everything he does, his travel schedule, what he does in the morning, what he eats and stuff. So it's really cool, very interesting, especially for those of us who know him or spend a lot of time around him, get to know him a little bit better. So anyhow, enjoy this, and we'll see you on the other side.
In the last episode, I talked about the responsibilities of the diocesan bishop. I talked about how the bishop is the one to be the sanctifier and the teacher and the administrator of the local church, the diocese. And so as teacher, I do things like this, like podcasts and give talks and retreats. As sanctifier, it is through especially celebrating the Eucharist and other sacraments, confirmation, ordination, etc., and preaching, that I bring that element to the faithful, and administration. And that's what I spend a lot of my time doing. I'd like to focus more for myself on being a teacher and sanctifier. And hopefully that is coming. I'll tell you why. But right now I focus a lot on administration. Okay, so that's what I talked about in the last episode. Now I want to kind of make it more personal and talk about a day in my life. What do I do? A lot of people ask me that. Kids, when I go to schools, they always say, what do you do every day? What do you do on your day off? And I realize that people don't know. We don't know what each other does. And a lot of people don't know what bishops do. Well, I don't know what all bishops do, but I'm going to tell you what this one does. So I'll focus on my experiences of this ministry. And it's really timely because in a few days I will celebrate 5 years of being ordained a bishop here for this diocese. And so I find myself reflecting a lot on what I do and how I got here and how it's going for me at this point. When I started, I didn't have a clue. I didn't really have a lot of guidance. I was plucked out of the parish in Texas and then put here and ordained and everything. We had a great party, and then everyone kind of drove away, and there I was. And so I just kind of had to jump in, and I tried to learn as much as I could, thanks to the good people here in the pastoral center, co-workers and fellow priests and others who are working with me and who were and who still are. Thanks to them, and just thanks to a lot of the way that the diocese was going, I just jumped in and started learning right away. I wanted to learn as much as I could about the history of the diocese and our parishes, and then I wanted to meet as many people as possible. So I tried not to be in the office those first weeks, but to go out and meet with people and meet people in our schools. As I said, as I've said before, unfortunately, I had to learn on the go, and unfortunately, there were a lot of pressing needs early on, personnel needs in the diocese, and then we experienced the devastation of Hurricane Michael, which was also new for me. And so that had to become my number one priority for many weeks and months after that. But I can say this, after about 3.5 years on the job, I think I started to realize it's not a job. I know, as bishop. But I think at that point I started to realize, that I can do this. I have certain abilities and charisms. talents to be able to do this. I should stop saying, I don't know what I'm doing. This is new. I never chose this and all of that. Stop feeling sorry for myself and really take hold of it. And that was an important point, turning point for me, because I think I did get more comfortable and I really started to live out of my talents and abilities and joy. And that is preaching and teaching and helping to direct people and being a good spiritual father, especially for our priests. And so I found a bit of rhythm into my life as a bishop around then, and that's continuing today. And of course, there's still lots of emergencies and challenges, just like in your life, in the life of all of us. And when they come up, they're unforeseen, but all of a sudden, that's the number one thing we're going to work on for a while. And that still happens. Wish I could say that was a rare occurrence, but it's not so rare, especially in a large diocese, a spread out diocese like ours. But again, this is what I want to talk about now is back to what I would call my regular routine. There's not really a regular routine every day, but this is pretty much what it looks like. And I hope you find it interesting. Okay, so in case you're interested, this is too much information, but 7:15 is when I wake up, and I try to get right out of bed right then, 7:15. And I set coffee the night before so that it's ready, and I take the coffee and I go into a little chapel that I have. Now, I hope that doesn't scandalize you. Yes, the Eucharist is there, but it's okay. It's not Mass, I can have my coffee there. And if that does scandalize you, think about it this way. People have asked, is it okay to have coffee when you're praying? Well, turn that around. I think it's really a good idea to pray while you're having coffee. How about that? See? So I don't have coffee when I pray. I pray while I'm having coffee. And it's a good thing. Anyway, I love my little chapel there in the house where I live. It's your house. It's the diocese's house. I just live there. I'm a tenant. And, anyway, I love sitting there. So I will sit there for about 45 minutes in the morning. It's just become a very important part of my day and my life as I gather myself, as I think about what I'm going to do that day. And perhaps even more importantly, as I think about all the petitions and intentions, the prayers that people brought to me the day before, or just what I know, what I know of my relatives and friends and parishioners. I know someone is sick, someone's going into surgery today, so I can bring all of that to prayer. And then there I pray the Office of Readings. Office of Readings is part of the Liturgy of the Hours that all religious and clerics are obligated to pray every day. The Office of Readings is a series of psalms and then 2 lengthy readings, one from the scriptures and one from sacred tradition. And after reading that and meditating and reflecting on that for a little while, I go right into morning prayer, more psalms and canticles and a short reading, and then intercessions. That's a big part of morning and evening prayers, intercessions, bringing again all those petitions to God. And it's also kind of neat because I have 3 calendars there in my chapel. One is the birthday calendar for the priests of the diocese. One is the birthday calendar for priests and brothers of Holy Cross. And then one is the birthdays and anniversaries of all my family. That's the longest one. And there's so many grandchildren, not mine, nieces and nephews and siblings and in-laws and all of that. So then I can bring their intentions too, especially when someone celebrates a birthday on that day. Okay, then after that, I'm getting ready to go to the pastoral center. People wonder, do you eat breakfast? I'm not so good at eating, period. Any meal, but breakfast especially. Coffee usually does it for me, but sometimes, like this morning, I like to make a smoothie so that I can have some sort of sustenance and strength for the rest of the day, or cold cereal. So there you go. And then I make the 15-minute, 16-minute drive to the pastoral center. How do I know it's 15, 16 minutes? Because it is almost exactly the length of time that it takes to pray a rosary. So if I start when I'm in when I just get into the car, I can finish as I drive up here to the pastoral center. But that's another important thing for me to do, is to just pray the rosary and meditate on the life, the passion, the death, the resurrection of Jesus, and the life of the Holy Family, as I again continue to focus my day for whatever lies ahead. So that's an important thing for me to do. Now, it's interesting because I used to wake up and look at email, or do something else on my phone or whatever, and look at silly videos or something like that, and just waste time. But this is something that I learned to do a couple of years ago, and I hope I will do it forever. I don't do email after I leave the office or outside of the office. In the evening or on the weekends, in the mornings, not until I get to the office do I first look at my email. I did that because at a certain time I was getting a lot of negative emails, the communications about some things going on nationally and internationally. And I would read them sometimes right before I'd go to bed or try to go to bed. And now my mind is filled with my response, how I would answer this, how I should answer this, or how upset I am. I can't sleep. I get frustrated. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, why am I doing this? Email is not, I don't sit in bed and read snail mail over and over again or anything like that, when I'm in my office and I'm reading mail, no matter what it is, even if it's harsh or negative or something like that, if I'm surrounded by people and in the light of the day, it's fine. I'm going to get, I figure we're going to get through this. I'm going to be able to answer this. But if I'm all alone, then it sometimes weighs on me too much. So I don't do that. And I recommend that to you. Now, I recommend this to a lot of people, bishops, priests, and lay people. I tell them, try it. It's going to change your life, perhaps, because it did mine in a certain way. And almost everyone I tell that to says to me, well, no, that's good, but I have to look at email 24 hours a day. I mean, because of my job. And I want to say to them, yeah, I guess I'm only the bishop. I don't need to do that. You have many more responsibilities than I do. But anyway, if you can get away with doing that or not doing that, I would invite you to think about that. Okay, great. When I get to the office, speaking of email, that's the first thing I do. So I read and write and try to answer as many emails as possible. I do get a lot of emails. And I don't mind normally. What I don't like is when they pile up and I'm not able to respond. But I say I don't mind because that's the way that I am able to communicate with a lot of people. And I appreciate that. It used to be via the phone, but I very rarely talk to people on the phone, as you do probably as well. So I spend a lot of my time reading and answering email. Great. I know, and like I said, it builds up and it gets a little frustrating. And just today I was talking to someone who said, you got to learn to manage your email or it will manage you. Well, I know there's a lot of, tricks out there, but I'm not really good at it. So I just kind of jump in and spend, maybe a couple of hours every day on email. Great. And then when I can, because of that, I try to walk around. We've got a great building at the pastoral center. Just a lot of windows, long hallways, open stairway there going up to the third floor and down to the first. So I like to just kind of walk around and see people, interact with people as well. That's an important part of my job as the bishop here as well. And then throughout the day, there are various meetings with people, parishioners, priests, and co-workers. Up to this week, I was basically the administrator for this building, for the pastoral center. And so, if something happened in HR or finance or the school's office, I would be the one to kind of help them to resolve that issue. Or if there were issues between offices, things like that, then I was the one to help to do that. But more and more I've been realizing with the help of people around me that that's A, not my skill set, and B, that's not really what I should be spending my time on. People say to me, people who know me and who are helping to coach me say, you should be out there with the people. That is not to say that administration is below me in any way or above me, but that's not my skill set, and I should be out with, ministering to people, working on those things that I mentioned at the beginning, at teaching and sanctifying even more than administering. But the good news is we just hired a chief operating officer for the pastoral center, and this person will help to do what I explained, to help to administer, be the administrator for this building and for the larger diocese as well. And he will help me to set a plan for the diocese, a strategic plan, something we haven't had in a long, long time in the diocese. And, just set a course for me and for our diocese. So I'm really excited about that. Today is his 4th day. The good news is he came back 3 days in a row. So that's good. He's going to be really good for me and for all of us. So I'm excited about that. Great. While in my office, I also like to contact people on the phone. Now, I just said that I don't do that very much, but it's a good thing to do, and it's really special when you can talk to someone on the phone these days. And so, especially if somebody emails me and has their phone number there, then a lot of times I'll just pick up the phone and call them. That blows people away. They're very surprised that I'm calling them because we don't receive a lot of phone calls, and people don't expect the bishop to call, I guess. But it's really important for me, especially if someone is upset or confused about something or is writing to complain. I don't like to try to explain myself. It's hard to explain, in detail myself and the reasoning for doing something via email, so I'll call them up. Or if somebody asks a theological question, and this happens often, can you help me to understand the Trinity or something like that? Well, not that I understand the Trinity, no one does, but I can have that conversation much more easily on the phone. And so I'll call the person and have that conversation if they have their number, if they give me their number. There's also something really neat, with the Catholic sharing appeal in our diocese that, in other dioceses, they may call it the annual bishop's appeal or diocesan appeal. We have the opportunity people have the opportunity to include a prayer on a card, and they may put their phone number there. And every once in a while, I'll take 10 of those out of the 1,000 the basket of about 1,000 or more that we have, and call a person and pray with them and ask, because it says, please pray for my daughter or something like that who has leukemia. So if they have their phone number on there and I have some time, I can just call them. It's really an awesome conversation, as you can imagine. I wish I could do that with every parishioner and every priest and teacher and administrator in our diocese, but it's not possible. But I do it when I can, so I try to do that every day or every other day to call some people to have an actual conversation with them instead of just emailing them over and over again. Great. Lunch again. Just what I said about breakfast. It's worse for lunch. I don't really eat lunch very often. Don't tell my doctor. She may be listening to this, but anyway, I really need to eat more and eat better. But today I ate, some of my leftovers from last night, so that's a good thing. I'm trying to bring in more bananas and fruit and everything, but anyway, we'll focus on that later. I celebrate Mass here at the Pastoral Center only once a week. We have a little schedule here for a couple of us, so I celebrate it once a week in our little chapel, and then I'm in parishes or other places on other days. And if I'm not scheduled, then I'll celebrate Mass in my chapel there in the house where I live. And it's neat. I would much rather be with God's people celebrating Mass with the congregation, but it's when I have to do that. I shouldn't say have to. When that happens, when it's just me, it's really a neat opportunity for me to imagine the whole diocese there in that little chapel, and you are. And I, as the bishop, am praying for unity in the church, for mercy for all God's people, and for the salvation of the world through the sacrifice of the Mass. And the only awkward thing is when I say, "The Lord be with you," and I don't get a response back. Or it's even worse if I say, "Peace be with you," and I say, "And with your spirit." I don't do that, but anyway. Okay, great. Excellent. And then, continue to work in the afternoon, just doing things in the office. I leave late in the afternoon and then head home. And if there is a meeting or something else in the evening, of course, I'll get ready and go to that. But if not, then I'll just get ready. I do have, if I haven't eaten breakfast or lunch, I do eat dinner. Just want you to know that I do eat at least once a day. And then I like to read or watch a little TV and just relax and go to bed. And this is also kind of a neat thing. And I like to tell people this because it's something I learned from my father. I found out late in his life that he knelt down before he went to bed every night, for as long as my mom remembers, as long as they were married, would kneel down by the side of the bed every night and pray for us, his children, and anyone else, his patients perhaps. He was a doctor, and pray for all the needs of the world. Very briefly, he would do that, and then he would pray an Our Father, a Hail Mary, and a Glory Be, and then go to bed. As soon as I found that out, which was about 15 years ago, I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And every night I do the same thing. When I was pastor of a parish, I would do that for the whole parish. Now that I'm bishop of the diocese, I do that for the whole diocese. I think I shared in an earlier podcast about that I try to remember everyone, every parish, every school, every parishioner, and lift them up to God in that prayer. So that's really important. So I like to begin and end the day with prayer. Okay, so that describes a typical day. Now, no day, that is a typical day, but every day is very different, of course. Some days I travel. I travel a lot around the diocese, which is great. If there is a retreat or a talk, or I go to school or prison or something like that, I'm going to drive. I'm going to drive a lot. I spend a lot of time driving in the car by myself. I don't have a driver or a secretary to drive me, which is fine. I don't know that I want someone yapping at me for 3 hours in the other seat. Just kidding. I love you all. Anyway, stick to the script, Bill. I listen to podcasts or, again, I'll pray or make some phone calls. Hands-free, of course. I'm very safe and everything. But I spend a lot of time in the car. Someone called it road therapy. And there's something to that, just to be out on the road, sometimes not have the radio on or anything, and just think and collect your thoughts. I do that a lot as I drive around this beautiful diocese, this awesome diocese. I love to visit schools as well. And now that school is in session, I'll be doing that regularly. Sometimes when I'm passing by a school, I have FOMO, fear of missing out. So I'll just stop and just go in there and rile the kids up. A lot of times when I go in, the kids go nuts, and the teachers probably don't like it. Sometimes they roll their eyes because they know that I'm going to come in and rile them all up just when the kids are calm. But I try not to, but I can't help it. I like it. So I try to go visit each classroom in our schools from time to time, and also to encourage the teachers and our principals and our faculty and staff there as well. Same thing with our high schools as well. I'd like to go there. We have Pensacola Catholic and John Paul II in Tallahassee. I like to visit there as well. Great. On Saturdays, on the weekends, again, starts with prayer, usually something fun or relaxing. A lot of times there are presentations or talks or liturgies on Saturdays. And many times if I have a confirmation or a mass on Sunday morning, especially far away, I'll go stay at a rectory close by, or, if I'll celebrate mass somewhere and then stay overnight there and then drive on. Say if it's in Panama City or especially Tallahassee or Apalachicola or something like that. Obviously, instead of waking up really early, 4 or 5 a.m. and driving the 3 hours or 4 hours to that place, I will stay overnight close by. So I do that a lot, which gives me another opportunity to kind of visit the priests and stay with them and talk to them in their own home, in their own rectory. So that's really neat. Sundays exclusively, always I can say, there are masses. 1 or 2 or 3 masses or confirmations or different liturgies around the diocese. I love that. Just like I did as a priest, I loved Sundays because that's the day you see the most number of parishioners, the greatest amount of parishioners. And I just love Mass, of course. So I'm scheduled every Sunday during what we might call confirmation season, January to June through June. It's almost always confirmations on the weekends, and then the summer and the fall, I just take that opportunity to help out when I can, especially in the cathedral and the co-cathedral, because I'm, the pastor of those places. We have rectors, but I'm really the pastor of our cathedrals. And then also to visit places that maybe don't have a confirmation that year, or places that I haven't been to. I love it. And it's funny, whenever I show up a lot of times for a regular Sunday Mass, I walk up the aisle and everyone's looking surprised. And I think that's their first reaction. Their second thought is, oh no, is there some big announcement or something like that? Or what's wrong, And so I turn around, we start Mass with a big smile, and I just say, it's just great to be here, and then everyone relaxes. But I really, really enjoy that as well. Mondays are my day off, or they should be. Sometimes I work, but sometimes, many times, most times, I take the whole day off, just sleeping in, praying, reading, doing exercise, riding my bike, visiting friends, and usually enjoying a meal somewhere, especially on Mondays. I do eat on Mondays, so that's a good thing. throughout the year, there are a lot of things like retreats, talks, meetings, board meetings, bishops' meetings, regional and provincial meetings. So even though I travel a lot around this diocese, there are many times throughout the year that I'm expected to be outside the diocese. In Baltimore once a year for the bishops' meetings, and in Miami several times a year for our regional and provincial bishops' meetings. But also I visit our seminarians in Miami, Boynton Beach, and in Wisconsin as well. And then occasionally I'm asked to give a talk or a presentation to in different places, like recently in Colorado Springs, and then coming up in New Orleans and Austin. And I enjoy doing that. I don't like to be away that much because I love being here and I need to be here a lot. But I think it's also important to remember that I'm a servant, a minister, not just for this local church, but for the whole universal church. And so from time to time, when that's possible, then I'm okay with going to another diocese to give a talk and everything. The problem is I give them my best, which may or may not be good, but anyway, they think it's good. And the people in attendance there, you can almost see it in their eyes. They say, oh, hey, why don't we ask him to give the talk at this thing or these next 3 things or whatever? And then I have more requests. But anyway, that's not a problem, but it's something that happens. Okay, great. Lots more travel, as I said, around and through by driving and everything in the diocese. It's a lot more than I thought there would be, but it is important to be with people. Our Holy Father Francis is really adamant about reminding us, teaching all of us that what matters is the concept of encountering one another, to have a relationship with one another. Yes, you can do that through email and the phone, but it's good to be with people one-on-one, especially, of course, as you celebrate liturgies, but also for retreats and talks and things like that. Okay, just last couple of minutes here. People ask me also, well, you've told us what you do now. Great. What do you wish you could do? What do you wish you could do more of? And I'll tell you right away, as I think about that, it is the things that I loved doing as a parish priest. Hospital visits, confessions, funerals, weddings, quinceañeras. As a parish priest, that took the bulk of my time, which was great. I did that almost every day, almost one of those, and really, really enjoyed it. I think the irony is I was maybe recognized as someone who did that well, made a bishop, and now I don't get to do that very often. Of course, I still assist in the confessional from time to time, helping some parishes, especially in Advent and Lent, but it's not a regular thing like it is in the parish for me. Funerals and weddings are pretty rare, as are quinceañeras as well, and hospital visits too. But whenever it happens, whenever someone says, hey, can you help out over here? Can you possibly help with this funeral or this wedding? I jump at the chance. And so if you need a priest or a bishop to celebrate your wedding, call me. I might get in trouble with that, but because I love to do it. And not a lot of people think, oh, let's ask our bishop to do it because they like their parish priest better. Oh, dang it. Anyway, I'm available. Call me. The number on your screen. I'm kidding. It's not going to be on your screen. Okay, great. So that's what I wish I could do more. Also, besides those things, I wish I could spend more time visioning or thinking about, where is God calling us to go, to be as a local church, as a diocese? What should we be focusing on now? Family life or prayer or evangelization? The answer is yes, yes, and yes, of course. But how can we do that? And how is God calling us to grow in these areas and other areas? I wish I could spend more time, and I'm trying to do that, thinking about these things and planning for the future. And I think now with the hiring of the new COO, there will be more time to do this. Another thing I'm working on here for our diocese, for our priests, is what is the charism of a priest in the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee? I think if you asked anyone, including our priests, they might just say, what do you mean? It's to serve in the parishes, to be a parish priest in the diocese. But I'd like us to reflect on that a little bit more. What are the particular charisms that are needed to serve here, to serve, say, the various populations in our diocese, the military, the university students, and the government folks, especially in Tallahassee, our rural communities and our beach communities, our spring breakers and winter visitors. What is that call forth from us as priests and ministers in this diocese in particular. I'd like to spend some time thinking about that. Another thing is, wouldn't it be great if we in the diocese had a retreat center? I know, terribly expensive to run. I don't know if, we could have, this one that with, that's a sprawling retreat center where people come from all over, and reserve it for weekends or weeks. But I would like to maybe start with a simple place where we can gather, in small groups, have retreats, maybe youth gatherings, things like that. Can we do that in our diocese? Should we be thinking of maybe a retirement place for our priests when they retire so that they could have a place to live, yes, on their own, but also in community there? How can I support our priests and my coworkers here at the Pastoral Center more? I wish I could spend more time on those things. And going forward, I plan on doing just that. Last question that people ask me all the time is, so what do you think? 5 years into it, do you like it? Do you love being a bishop? And I say, well, I love being a priest. I have always loved being a priest for 8 years, I think it is. Have loved it. Being a bishop, I like it. I'm getting there. I love you all, but the job, I like it. I love being a priest even more. Like I said, just that contact with the people, presiding and preaching and all of that. As a bishop, I'm finding there's a lot more focus on administration, and on supporting people who are out in the field, which is great. And I embrace that, but I'm getting there. So I do like that. And I love our priests. I love being with them. I love the parishioners. I love showing up on a Sunday morning in a parish 3 hours from here and having people just smile or applaud or something like that. I love that. I love being welcomed by people. I love celebrating with people and hearing their stories and walking with them in the faith. So that's a great thing. So there are a lot of challenges. I know that I have not done things perfectly. I am a sinner. I've made some mistakes. Some of the mistakes I've made are public. You can see, and when I do something, and we all realize that was not a good decision for this diocese or for this parish, and that's very humbling. But nonetheless, I think I know I'm getting better, and I hope with God's help and your help that I will be a better bishop in the future even. And I know that will happen because I know that God is with me. I trust that. I've always trusted and known that God has been with me, but the longer I am involved in this or anything, the more convinced I am that this is God's church. It's going to be okay. I just need to let God lead and listen to God and to join with you, my brothers and sisters, in walking with the Lord. So thanks for listening. That's kind of a typical day in the life for me. That's what I do. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers for me. And know that I pray for you. And I just told you I do every night. I will continue to do that as well. God bless you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bishop, for taking us through this really interesting thing that not many people get to see ever, which is the life of a bishop day to day. From a practical standpoint, I took away some great consolation listening to Bishop talk. He touched on some things that I think a lot of people deal with from a day-to-day in terms of what stresses us out, how we manage our days to make us feel like we can get through things. One of the things I'll definitely take away is his approach to emails. And while I don't get nearly as many emails as him, I definitely related to him when he was talking about that thinking about a problem or an issue that you get via email at night when the sun has gone down and you're kind of all by your lonesome collecting your thoughts, it's a lot harder to think rationally and in an even-keeled way and feel happy about crisis situations, I feel, as opposed to when you do it in the daylight, when you're surrounded by people in an office, for example, or around your normal assortment of folks. I found that's an amazing way to be able to deal with things and not have them weigh on you. So I was really happy to hear that from Bishop in that sense too. I loved his line, "I don't have coffee while I pray. I pray while I have coffee," a perfect approach to how you can transform every part of your day and not see it as kind of squeezing prayer in or squeezing God in, but God is always present. And so we present things to him because he's always present there. So we just take normal parts of our day and we're like, of course God's here. Of course I'm going to pray while I'm doing this Saturday thing. This is how life works when you have an intimate relationship with a living God who is closer to us than we are to our very selves. One of the last things I really enjoyed was that moment of honesty, which again, if you know our bishop, you are going to get those moments of honesty where he clearly said, I love being a priest and I like being a bishop. And it's one of these things in life, I think, whether you're consecrated, a lay person, married, single, whatever you're doing in life, a lot of people have found themselves in a position where they are maybe, I don't know, maybe you're in a portion of your career where you're like, I'm kind of getting through it or something like that. I'm getting my feel for it. Where's God in all this? And you can relate to this. Even a bishop who's directly called by God to do this is kind of in a place where he didn't imagine himself at the very beginning of his priestly journey, and certainly not the beginning of his vocational journey. But yet still there is grace and consolation, the presence of the Lord there helping him along, helping him kind of sink his teeth into that while still also realizing that it's a fruit of his first calling to what he talked about, which is baptisms, being with people, weddings, masses at a parish, quinceañeras, all these kinds of things, which are truly life-giving. It's something the bishop can go back to and look at and see as something that is a generation of his current calling as a bishop. So we're so lucky. If you're listening in this diocese, you know how lucky you are. If you're from outside the diocese, be jealous, because it's really cool to have a bishop like him to talk to us about his day, honestly, to get us into a sense of what it's like to be in this exalted, elevated position, but still one of us smelling like the sheep. So Bishop, if you're listening, which you never do, thank you for taking us through this. And for all of our listeners, we are about to go back to our regularly scheduled kind of set of stories from people of faith throughout the diocese. And our next guest is going to be a really cool guest that Bishop actually mentioned in this podcast. Our new Chief Operating Officer of the diocese, David L., is going to join us, an ex-military guy, Army, who has amazing stories of jumping out of planes hundreds of times, being at West Point, also being a man of faith in leadership positions. We're going to have a great conversation with him and get to know him a lot better. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you then.
Thank you for tuning in today to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. If you would like to know more about our podcast, please visit gaudiumetspes.net or go to ptdiocese.org and click the button that says podcast. If you listen to the audio version from an app such as iTunes, Stitcher, or Spotify, be sure and rate, review, and comment. If you watched us on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe or leave us a comment there as well. Thank you for joining us.